I know how to deal with my emotions and my feelings. When you use for that long and you know, run from your emotion and feelings with substances, then you have to sit with them. It's really scary and it's really hard. Not knowing how to put words to your emotions. Why am I angry right now? My old self would be like, well, I'm angry. I'm going to go get high. I'm going to go get drunk. That was always the thing. I'm happy. I had a great day. Well, that means it's time to celebrate. I'm going to go get high and I'm going to go get drunk. I'm sad. Then you take those substances away and it's like you're angry and there's nowhere to run to. And you have to deal with those things.
It's Golden Hour Adventure Time, featuring everyday people doing extraordinary things. From the peaks of victory to the valleys of defeat, these are their stories. Now, from the back of the pack, your hosts, Justin and Robbie.
Welcome to Golden Hour Adventures. Today you got Robbie on the right and Justin on the left, if you're watching us on the video. If you're not, well, then you just have our voices in your radio as you're driving to work, which is weird.
That is weird.
Do you ever listen to yourself, Robbie?
Well, you know, I used to listen all the time, but just to see how it was sounding.
Yeah.
I watch more than I listen, to tell you the truth, because editing, and after I get done editing, I make sure that stuff's good. And sometimes I like to watch and see what I've done with my my art project.
I like that. So a couple weeks ago, I made a post, and I think I talked about it on this podcast about trying to hit 2024, 2025, because it's 2025. Jeez. I have 158 miles that I have to do in the month of December because in November I did not run. And so
if you just follow Andy next week, you'll get 300.
Yeah, let me just jump on his train and do 300 next week. Yeah, that sounds good. So 158 miles is what I have to do. So gonna shoot for it.
You got it.
It'd be a pretty quick ramp, so we'll see what happens. But I don't know. I think it'll be an adventure, and it's going to be cold because it's December, but I should have a lot of time to crank some miles. So we'll see.
What is that average?
What do you think? Let's see, 58 miles. I'll have to pull out the calculator because I have a high school education.
I got you
so
beat. 40 miles a week.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I could do 40 miles.
You got it.
I just have to do 40 miles.
You will have to do 40 miles a week. Hey, I got 41 last week. Yeah, I was planning on 36, then all of a sudden I looked at Strava and it said 41. Then I was like, no. So I got on Final Surge because that's where I built my plan. And it showed that I went over on my mileage. Bad coach for myself.
I had 19 miles on this week, so
This week I don't know. I haven't run too much. I did go on a run with two previous podcast guests, Mike Bent and Ryan Stevenson, on Friday.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. You were down in Utah, right?
It was in Utah, yep. Did some stuff, Pleasant Grove area, Utah County. It was a good time.
So as it would have it, I also went on a run this weekend with a previous podcast guest, Torv.
Nice.
Yeah. Torv came up. He wanted to experience what snow felt like. So if he's listening to this, he's going to laugh. But he wanted to experience what snow felt like, because they don't get snow in Minnesota. So, so he came up and we went on a run. So it's kind of cool.
That is cool.
Well, I guess Nick, I run with Nick almost every weekend. So he was a podcast guest too. So there we go. I ran with two podcast guests as well.
Nice.
Not trying to one up you here.
No. We got to keep it going. I like it.
It is kind of cool. It is kind of cool to, I didn't forget that he was on the podcast, but he was talking to me and, we're just, talking back and forth while we're running. He would say something and I'd be like, yeah, you told me that on the podcast. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot. He said he didn't know I got sober. And so he said when he was driving down the road, he was listening to podcasts. He's like, he had to pull the car over and do a cheer, by himself. And he was over the moon. He was ecstatic. And so we were talking about that, but yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I saw it coming.
It was cool to catch up.
He left a comment somewhere. I think IG or YouTube. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he's crazy. Torv's a good dude. He's a madman. He's the only guy that I know that'll split board a 100-mile winter race, but wild.
He's done multiple, right? Didn't he do Arrowhead 135 on splitboard?
I think he was supposed to do Arrowhead last year and he pulled out because he had, I think, a terrible training year or something.
No
And
snow.
so he's doing, I think he's in it this year.
Cool.
I think he's in it this year. So yeah, he's going to split board the 135. Yeah. I think, what do you think about winter ultras for someone who's not ever done a winter ultra? Like I'm talking about, I know you've ran ultras in the winter, like stories, but in my opinion, it's a winter ultra. I get it, but it's not a winter ultra. I'm talking about ITI, the White Mountains, Arrowhead 135, the Divide 100, some of those big, well-known winter ultras. Like, what are your thoughts on them? I mean, the aid stations are kind of built like a 200. They're 20 to 25 miles apart. Very little support. You're out there by yourself, but the time frame is long. Like White Mountains, the one that I did was 40 hours cutoff, which for an ultra 100 miler is very, very generous. Arrowhead is a 60 something hour cutoff for 135. There's another one called the Susitna 100 that's south in Anchorage area. Well, it's a little bit north of Anchorage, but it's a 48-hour cutoff. Like, what are your thoughts on winter ultras?
I'm kind of intrigued, but I'm also not. Like, I guess I've run enough in the winter throughout the years. I've done a lot of fat asses in the winter with aid. But, like, I guess what doesn't make it sound so fun is the distance between the aid stations.
Yeah.
I don't want to...
It was kind of a drain, I will admit. It was kind of that was hard. It was a hard piece.
Yeah, because you're just... I think I would just be thinking about that next aid station, getting warmer if my feet are wet or any of that stuff. So I think mentally it would be exhausting, especially with 25 miles for each one, Then you get there, and it may not be what you want it to be. So then, either keep going down or turn it around. I think I'd be more intrigued if, I like the idea of being out there alone and going through the winter and the snow and all that. If the aid stations were a little closer, so I didn't have to carry so much gear. And, the big turnoff for me with Arrowhead 135 is the mandatory gear. I get it.
Most all winter ultras that I've looked up or I've researched have required gear. Almost every single one. The White Mountain 100 is the only one that I know of that does not have required gear.
I did.
Which is wild to me, but I think because they have such a robust medical crew that runs the course that you're always kind of within an hour or two of someone, right? If you need help, you're going to get help. It's like you're not going to die out there. And I'm not saying that the other ones don't have that medical support, but I know for a fact, because I ran the White Mountains, that it has it. But and I think maybe that's the reason why the mandatory gear is not required. But I get the mandatory gear though. I get it.
I totally get it too. I get it too.
And a lot of these people, I don't know if I know the White Mountains has a qualifying, but it only has to be a 25-mile race, which qualifying for a 100-mile race with a 25-mile race is wild to me. But
yeah.
But they want you to have winter experience and run, and it can't be just a 25-mile race. It has to be a winter 25-mile race. And so it's interesting to me that some of these races do not have qualifiers. You don't have to have a qualifier. And so they just have this required gear. So somebody from Texas wants to run, and I'm not saying they can't, because I know a guy that runs Arrowhead almost every single year and he lives in Florida. It's possible to do, but practicing, just like when you're going and running like Leadville, getting at 10,000 feet, getting all those big climbs, like the same goes for running in the winter. Like I can go out there and run at 20, 30 below. I have the right gear. I know when my body starts, doing weird things. I know how to fix it. I know what to do. Someone who doesn't have that experience doesn't know. And so I'd find it really weird for someone to come up to the White Mountains up here. Though it is in March, you're probably not going to be as cold. Like the year before I ran it, they had a whiteout blizzard come through on the back half of the runners. And there was people that knew the course and still got lost because you can't see. They were finding the way with their poles, trying to, like, if their pole hit the ground, it was hard. They were on trail. If not, they were off trail. And that's how they found their way. And so it's like, that's wild to me, someone who doesn't have that experience, would not be in a good spot.
I did there's some backcountry ski races that require a lot of gear, like a bivy, a pad, a sleeping bag, all that stuff, and you got to carry it, and you're not pulling a sled, it's on your back. I did a smaller one. It was supposed to be 20-something miles. With one aid station, it turned into 26 or something with pretty much no aid. Got to the aid station, the guy was like, "Were you expecting aid?" We're like, "That's what the website said." And he goes, "Oh, we just have a little bit of water." I was like, "You don't have any food?" And they're like, "No, we got some food that we brought up." I'm like, but they required some gear, and I wanted to stay light, so I didn't take any nutrition because I was depending on that. I had some, but I was depending on that aid station. Anyways, I get down, they had another like water stop, they called it, and they had like 10 boxes of gels down there. I'm like, and we had 5 miles to go. At this point, I was just super frustrated because I needed that up top, not with 5 miles to go. And it was hammered too, so let's just put that there. But I was a bit frustrated with that one because all the gear I had to carry that I didn't really need. Even if something did happen, I was in a pretty heavily populated place. I guess with me, it's just, I would like to experience, but if, White Mountains sound interesting, but like Arrowhead 135, it doesn't. I don't want to have to pull a sled or have all that mandatory gear. Like I said, I understand and totally get it, but for me, I like to live on the wild side a little bit, so take that away from me and make me figure it out.
You get the mandatory gear. I understand that, right? But I think that adds to the difficulty of it. It adds to the challenge. Like, you have to run this race and you have to pull a sleeping bag that you're never going to use, a bivy that you're never going to use, a stove that you're never going to use. You have to have 2,000 calories that you can't use until after the last checkpoint. Like that, most people just grab a jar of peanut butter, but it's those things. And I think that's what adds to the challenge of it. Like, I think I would love to do Arrowhead 135 one year. I think it'd be amazing to do it. I think it would be great. And I probably will throw my name in the hat one year, but some of that gear is expensive and I should buy it while I'm here when it's cheaper, more readily available.
No kidding, yeah.
But I think that adds to the level of difficulty, and it's something that not everyone's done, right? Like, the percentage of people that have run a winter ultra is very, very low. Obviously the amount of people that have run 100 miler is low, but then you throw in the winter side of things. And the White Mountain 100, though it was a pretty easy course, was the hardest race I've done to date because of the mental challenge that it, I was on another podcast and I was talking about it, how it was a graduate level 100. And, they were like, well, I wouldn't consider a graduate level 100. They're looking at the specifics of like the gain and the trail. They're not thinking about like your aid stations are 25 miles apart and you're by yourself because there's 11 runners in the mix. There's 100 people that run the race. I think 81, I think is what the number is, but I think they have a permit up to 100. But the majority of those are bikers and skiers. And then you have a few runners that run. I think the year I ran it, there was 11 people.
And you guys,
I was out there probably by myself for like the first 30 to 40 miles. And then I met up with some people, but it's like, man, if you would have ran that whole thing by yourself, you would have gone crazy. That would have been nuts. And so I think that, from a mental side of things, that winter ultras, they are tough, and it takes a hardy individual to do them.
Yeah, I can agree.
And that's why I bring it up, because I figured you'd be intrigued by them just for the fact that you're by yourself. They have the required gear, and I think that would be like, I think you would like that just for the fact that you have to do that, a little bit more rather than just go run. So,
I don't know. You never know. White Mountains intrigue me more than Arrowhead, to tell you the truth.
Well, White Mountains, you don't have to have required gear.
Yeah,
so you
and that's why,
because
that's why
I wouldn't suggest it, but you can.
Yeah, no, I would. I would have what I need to have, but just having to learn how to pull a sled and the added stuff. Right now, I'm just not in a place to add time to that. Or, I mean, I could do it here. It'd be really boring training for me. I'd probably lose my mind.
So you don't necessarily have to pull a sled in those races.
Well, Arrowhead, you don't.
But
You just got to
it's just-
carry it then, right?
No, you don't have to have a sled.
But you
It's
have
just
to
the
carry it.
easiest way to transport all the stuff. You'd have to carry it. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a 30-liter pack, you could fit everything in a 30-liter.
Yeah, true.
Depending on like your sleeping bag, it'd have to be like a real expensive down.
Yeah,
Because I think they usually require like 40 below bags.
40. Yeah, so that's $1,000 bag at least.
Yeah. Your gear is not cheap.
No.
That's the reason why I pulled out of ITI this year, because I didn't want to spend $5,000 getting gear for 150-mile race.
Yeah, I get it. It's a lot of pairs of shoes.
Hey, you just had an anniversary, man.
I did.
Was it Friday?
It was Friday. 23
3 years sober.
years sober.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
What a journey. What a journey.
Yeah, it's been a journey. When I was driving into I spent last week in Utah with some work, then some family time over Thanksgiving, and I was driving through this small town to get to my destination, and there was this bar, and it was Wednesday night. And I was telling you, Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, is usually like the biggest bar night in the United States. Tons of bars, do all kinds of crazy things because, right, everyone's got Thursday off, so it's cold, it's dark, why not go to the bar? But I was driving by there and I saw people outside. They're just outside smoking and doing whatever. And I thought to myself, I do not miss that one bit. If I was still drinking, that would have been my number one goal for the day, was get to the bar that night and drink. And I'm so disconnected from cannabis and alcohol these days. They're not even a thought in my mind anymore. I don't think about it ever. I was just, drove by, saw people out there, thought it's Wednesday night, it popped in my mind. I talk with a lot of people and they struggle because after they stop using any substances, we can even put, food, porn, training, fitness, any of that in there. They get bored because they don't know what to do with their time. And I've done a really good job of filling my time with whatever it is. Podcasting, being with my daughter, training again, work. I've found other ways to stay busy and be present. That's the most important part of the whole journey, is being present. Then that popped into my head after I drove by, and I'm like, well, if I was just over there at the bar drinking and, running from whatever I was running from, I wouldn't be present. I would wake up on Thanksgiving, probably hungover and felt horrible. Then I'd start drinking and getting high again, just to chase that. So it was a good little kind of I wouldn't say a wake up call, but it was like, here I am.
A little reminisce down that alley, and you're, no regrets at all. That's
no
cool.
regrets. It's been, I tell people it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's getting easier now, just because I know how to deal with my emotions and my feelings. When you use for that long and you run from your emotion and feelings with substances, then you have to sit with them after you don't use them anymore. It's really scary, and it's really hard not knowing how to put words to your emotions. Like, why am I angry right now? My old self would be like, well, I'm angry, I'm going to go get high. I'm going to go get drunk. That was always the thing. Well, I'm happy, I had a great day. Well, that means it's time to celebrate. I'm going to go get high and I'm going to go get drunk. I'm sad, all those. Then you take those substances away and it's like you're angry and there's nowhere to run to. And you have to deal with those things. And it's really hard and really uncomfortable, especially, like I was saying, 30 years of doing that. Then you have to sit there and go, why am I mad? Why am I so angry?
Yeah.
Why am I so frustrated? Then the harder part too is when you're happy and you have a good day and you want to go celebrate. Especially on a hot summer day, you see people out on the patio at the brewery drinking. I want to go have a drink. Or, my thing was always mowing the lawn, drinking a beer.
That's funny.
It's the romantic part of it. That
They need to come out with a brewery that's just all non-A's.
they do.
That'd be a good idea.
In some of the sober groups, we've talked about like a whole like bar club type thing where it's all NA, but it's the same thing. They have cocktails, tons of beers, food options. dance floor, all those bands, everything you'd find at a regular club, bar, or whatever you want to call it, but non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
I think that'd be
That'd
cool.
That'd be really interesting. That'd be a cool concept.
I think they'll start to come around.
Yeah, I'm noticing more and more breweries, even the breweries up here that are, making so I think it's, they're starting to come around where you're going to have a lot of the breweries are going to have NA beers so that you can go, if there's a group meetup or something like that at the brewery, it's like, well, at least I can go and I don't just have to sit there and drink water type thing. If you're into drinking NAs, because I understand that sometimes that, an NA is triggering
to some people,
yeah, and so I think that, but that's definitely a possibility. I think that's cool that breweries are actually starting to realize, like, hey, there's a lot of people getting sober nowadays. We should probably cash in on them too. Not cash in on them, but like
might as well
give them something to drink. Yeah, not cash in on them.
I mean, it's a buzzword, right? Sobriety. I was listening to one of my favorite bands. They came out with a live album, and at one part, he was talking about how he had his last drink at that same venue 3.5 years ago. And this is a guy I've always looked up to in this band for years, since 2003, 2004, I started listening to this band. And,
who is it?
Authority Zero.
Okay.
They're like a punk ska band from Arizona. And he was talking about how he had his last drink in that parking lot 3.5 years ago. And I was like, holy shit, he's sober. Just not that I'm judging or anything. It's just like that guy lived the life, right? He lived the punk rock life, and to hear that, I was on a run. I almost stopped and started crying because
that's awesome.
I was like, he never talked about it. That was the first time I've ever heard him publicly talk about it. And I was just like, holy shit. And you hear, tons of, actors, actresses, other musicians, artists getting sober. So I think we've figured out that we can live without, changing our mind. I think we got fed a lot of, I'm just going to say the government society, with smoking and drinking, that it was a cool thing to do. And that's how we relaxed. But now some people can do that. Fine. I don't care. Do it. But I can't. One was just a starting point, and it was time to keep going until I passed out.
I think getting sober is an interesting concept to people who aren't sober. Mm-hmm. So like if somebody stops doing drugs, they're like, oh yeah, good for you. If they stop doing XYZ, it's like, oh, it's good for you. And it's like, well, I don't drink, but what's wrong? And I've gotten that a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh, it's a choice I made, not to have alcohol in the household, not to drink. And so, but that's interesting to me when someone, wants to take that step in their life, whether, it's in my case, it was, just a decision not to drink, in your case, it was life-saving measures.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever the situation may be, why you decided to get sober, I think it's weird that people don't celebrate it on the same level as what's celebrated, if you was to get clean off of drugs.
Yeah. It's so socially acceptable, right? We saw the tides turn with cigarettes, right? Everyone smoked cigarettes, for years, and, you could smoke in airplanes. All the cars had ashtrays, everywhere you went, you could smoke. Then, they started doing research and decided, it does all this. But then if you quit smoking, it was like, oh yeah, I'm so happy for you. Okay. You quit drugs, same thing. But alcohol is such an acceptable thing to do that when you stop, some people frown upon it. And it's very interesting for me to, sometimes I want to judge when I hear that. A lot of times, I've known people that they won't tell people that they've quit drinking because it brings up a lot of stuff in their social group, work, people that work where, all their meetings and brainstorming events are bars or restaurants surrounded by alcohol. And if you tell them that you're not drinking and you tell them why, you're almost kicked out of the group type of thing. And then your work life gets all, why? I don't get it. So, and I could bet for you, military, everyone's known, I worked with tons of Marines, and the stories they would tell me, they would get done with their day and they would all go spend the night at the bar, wake up, go to work, and that was their thing. And hey, whatever. Then I would talk to the guys that, didn't drink, and they're like, I wasn't even on the team. I just showed up for work, then I went home and did my thing. I wasn't a part of their team. So I'm just using that one because I worked with a lot of Marines and I know it goes all around work, family, even. Having to tell your family that you just don't drink anymore, then why? Then, that's usually the question, why? Then you have to get into it and it gets uncomfortable. But it's also what I've learned is the people that get really upset about it with you are looking at themselves and going, I probably have this problem too. And I wish I had the courage to quit. And that's really hard.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of times when I've had these conversations with people that are in early sobriety too, it's a reflection of themselves when one of their friends or family members quits drinking, gets sober, envious of you and get down on themselves about them having a problem. Sometimes it leads to opening up. Sometimes it goes the wrong direction. And where we're at with food in the United States, cheap food, times are hard. It's not the best. We overeat. We don't move enough. I think the food addiction in the United States is crazy bad, but we don't talk about that one. Super taboo, right? And it goes all over the place, right? This whole EBT thing and SNAP, states taking away soda pop and chips. Then people are freaking out. Why are you freaking out? There's a lot to it, I think. There's a lot to addiction in just general. We could probably look at every person and find some kind of addiction, healthy or not, right?
I'm addicted to sugar.
Yeah, me too. And
I can't help it. I had candy corn when I was coming up here.
oh man, I still didn't have any canned corn. Have you tried?
I found a last bag of it.
Have you seen
It's supposed to be my run fuel, but I'm like, oh yeah, it was get a little couple.
I'm still working through all the stuff from Cowboy. Have you seen the new Nerd Clusters?
No.
They're Nerd Clusters juice. So in the center, there's juice.
I'll have to try someone. I'll have to try some.
I bought a bag on the way back from Utah yesterday.
Are they good?
They're good. They're like Gushers. Have you had Gushers?
Yeah.
They're like Gushers with.
Yeah.
I hope they have different flavors because it was strawberry punch, and strawberry punch just, I don't know, strawberry flavors is not my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's not. That doesn't hit.
No, but I don't know what else they do with it. Like, I wanted like the rainbow or, maybe the berry blast.
Is there more carbs in it than typical Nerd Clusters? Or
I think a serving was 24. But I don't remember how many the serving was.
You know what? Here's the thing. I saw at Javelina, they had Nerd Clusters at the aid station.
They did?
They did, yeah. I thought that was amazing. Like, Nerd Clusters, that's literally a runner's go-to now.
Yeah. I think
it's just so funny that we turned to candy as opposed.
Someone needs to do the statistics on it. What amount of Nerd Clusters are sold to endurance athletes, ultra endurance athletes?
Man,
we could just say endurance athletes because I know a lot of marathon people use them for fuel too. Runners in general, endurance.
Yeah, I think that triathlon. There's a whole world out there.
Yeah, we'll
long distance hikers.
We'll just put the umbrella endurance athletes.
Well, I think we jabbered on long enough. People are probably sick and tired of hearing us talk. Before we go, what do you got coming up in the month of December?
December. It's a good question. I'm going to start ramping up miles. This last week I was just busy with work. Then we actually finally got cold here in South Dakota. Yesterday and today has been quite cold. Not as cold as Alaska.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to the team.
Last night my daughter was
actually warm right now. It's 19.
Oh, we got you beat then. I think it's supposed to get down to 8.
I know.
My daughter had
we'll talk on Friday though.
Yeah, a parade, the parade of lights, and we got back and we'd been in Utah and it was 50 degrees and we get back here and it's like, I don't know, it was like 7 degrees and minus 7 degrees with the wind chill and she had to get all bundled up. Anyways, December, I'm going to start ramping up miles. The goal to be, by the end of September, is to be 50 miles a week. And I want to get a few longish runs in. What I mean by that, they seem long now. Probably 15, 16 miles. Couple of those.
I like how you mentioned that, like, long runs are relative to where you're at currently in your training cycle. So if you're like you're off cycle, kind of how I am now, I'm going to start ramping up in December because A, I have to, and B, I have a race coming up in February. But I like that because sometimes like long runs are associated with a certain distance, but it's like did 10 miles on Saturday, and that was a long run because I'm not really training for anything right now. And so 10 miles was a long run for me. And I just wanted to hit that it doesn't necessarily matter on a certain distance as a long run. Like, oh, it has to be 15 miles for it's a long run or 20 miles to be a long run. It's like, no, I mean, a long run could be 6 miles. If you're running 3 milers throughout the week and you do a 6 mile on Saturday, like that's your long run. So I think long runs are, a lot of times get associated with a certain number, but they're really more relative to where you are in your training. And so I just wanted to, I don't know.
No,
I've seen a lot of stuff recently, and I think that's something
I agree because like
needed to be brought up.
we've had this discussion before, if you're like deep into 100-mile training, and we'll say you got an 8-week training block and you're week 5 and 6. Those long runs should look 20 to 25 miles a week or 24 miles a run. That's different than where we're both at. 15 miles is going to seem long.
100%.
Yeah, that's
well, I have nothing else going on in December other than my calendar is completely full. And now, as we discovered, I got to run 40 miles a week.
Hey, maybe you can just get some longer runs in there. Just do 2 20s, back-to-back 20s. Saturday and Sunday.
The bottom's going to fall out here shortly because I think Saturday the high is -11, and so yeah.
So you might be on that treadmill,
anyway.
huh?
No, I'll go outside.
Yeah.
I'll go outside. Well, we'll see because I don't know. I may have to treadmill for time's sake, but anyway, if you like this podcast, please leave us a like, leave us a review, leave us a comment. We're looking for 5 stars. We want a 5-star review. So if you haven't given us a 5-star review, just jump on your favorite platform that you listen to us, leave us 5 stars. And as always, we'll see you on the trails.